We've been in the Sean Payton era for 1 year now. The Broncos officially traded for Sean Payton 1 year from yesterday. So it's been a year. And before we jump into today's conversation, what's a word you would use to describe the Sean Payton era this year, Todd?
Just one?
You could use a few if you need to.
Intriguing.
Oh, okay. I like that. Henry?
Very intriguing.
Let's go with the check mark. It feels like he kind of just came in, just like checked it off, did kind of what you expect him to do, fixed Russ, went 8-9. Here we are. I think it's basically what we expected him to do.
Did he fix Russ?
Yeah.
This looks better. Yeah.
I mean, like 3 weeks left in the season. We were talking about Pro Bowl.
If you fix something, are you putting it on the bench?
Turns out, yes. Saw it, yeah.
I mean, sometimes people fix cars just to sell them.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
Yes.
Yep. Do they fix cars just to leave them in the dump?
Yes.
No, I wouldn't do that.
You can fix a car and still want a new car.
Yeah. But what do you do with the old car? Like,
Try
if
to
you
get
sell
rid
it,
of
then
it.
yeah, there are some people that fix cars, flip houses, do
Yep,
that.
Yep.
And I'll buy it if they're able to trade Russ.
Yes.
It's a little more.
But we've been talking about, like, just cutting him.
Yeah, but like, I just don't know how the finances work. It's all like maybe there's like a lien on the car.
Oh, man.
And like the car's not paid off, and so you have to like get rid of it for like maybe you can get there's no insurance money coming back. But like if you sold it, then you have to like somehow pay more money. I mean, he's a quarterback, not a car.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lien on this vehicle.
Yeah, I still don't know what a lien is, but it sounds right.
Yeah, it's when you also owe money that you haven't paid. So basically,
Okay.
exactly
Oh,
what's
cool.
happening with the Broncos.
So it's like a loan that is expired that you haven't paid yet?
no, so
It's usually like
lien,
a loan on other things, right?
Yeah, so a lien is
Oh,
basically
right.
something that somebody puts on a property or a car because either like they fixed it up and you never paid them, or they did some work
Yeah.
for you on the car and you didn't pay them, whatever. There's a lien on it based off of unfulfilled payments. So
There we go.
that's exactly
You haven't had
what's
liens on
happening.
your cars, right? You
No,
seem
thank
okay.
God.
Good. You seem
Thank
like an
God.
expert.
No.
I actually used to put lien on cars because I ran a body shop.
Wow.
So I would have to put lien on cars all the time.
Does that make you the
Damn.
bad guy?
No, they have to pay me and then I'll take it off. Go ahead.
Okay.
The word I would use to describe this year with Sean is the mind eraser. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Like
Either
Men
of you?
in Black? With the
Oh, no,
flash?
I
No,
do,
no,
yeah.
that would work, but no.
Okay.
No. Henry, do you know?
No.
Denver natives would know. You hear? You know what I'm talking about?
Six Flags.
Yes, exactly. It's like the craziest roller coaster at Six Flags in
Oh.
Denver. And because this year has been the wildest roller coaster with Sean. I mean, we've had the highest of highs, a 5-game win streak. The last time the Broncos had that had to have been when you were on the team, when it was a Super Bowl team,
Yeah, probably
if not
so.
even like 2014. They've had the lowest of lows, a 50-point loss.
Yeah.
And then there's just been like crazy stuff in between with on-field stuff, off-field stuff. When the Broncos got Sean, it seemed like a great day. And now we're somewhere on that roller coaster stuff. We don't know where it's going to end up. We might be upside down by the time this thing ends. Hopefully we're right side up, enjoying the ride.
Yeah, I think we're stopped hoping that they can get it fixed.
Yeah, you're spot on. Hoping a lien is taken off.
Exactly.
On the roller coaster, is it good to be going up on the roller coaster or down? Because down's the fun part, but it feels like you should be wanting to go up, right?
It's the build up, yeah.
Is the build up?
Yeah. That's
But
the
then-
best place to be.
Okay, but then like winning the Super Bowl, wouldn't that be like, oh, this is? But I guess you are screaming when you go down on the roller coaster.
That's a great part. What's the best part of a roller
Screaming out of
coaster?
joy, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you want to go up and then you want to ride down, but then you have the momentum to go back up again. So you can go down again.
But there's nothing like the first drop.
Nothing
true.
like that.
All
yeah.
the drops
That's
are
always
just-
the big one.
It's
always
actually
the
so
big one.
true.
Yeah.
Like,
Scientifically,
like
yeah.
if you were to say what's the best Super Bowl the Broncos have had, well, Todd, I can't ask you this because
Yeah.
that wouldn't be fair.
I was one when they won their
Okay,
first.
okay, Henry. Okay, let's say the Nuggets win a championship like 2 years from now.
Is it against Embiid?
No.
If it's not against Embiid, the first one's better.
There you go. There you go. Okay, my point. I shouldn't have used that example because Henry was one. Todd was on the third Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my biggest drop, though. My biggest,
That probably.
my first drop.
Yeah,
Your
because
first drop.
if you would have won the next year, it still would have been great.
It would have been great.
But probably not as good, right?
Not the same.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, are you saying that because you're the only one I can ask on this set that the first kid is always the best?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Which one is the best?
They're all great.
Like
all
Dion
great.
will go and like rank all his
Oh, yeah.
kids.
No, I'm not gonna rank my kids. It's like
You don't do
ranking you guys. I'm not gonna
Wow.
rank you guys. Any y'all here?
But if you did,
Can't do that.
Next week, after a couple of drinks, that's when the truth will come out, Henry.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. We're almost there. Almost in Vegas,
We
baby.
are almost there.
I
And
know.
this is the DNVR Broncos podcast. Can't forget to welcome you. And with Super Bowl 50 champ Todd Davis, we've got Henry Chisholm, who's finished a Starbucks. Man, you're going to be all over the place on this show.
Yeah, it's weird. I used to drink like the ventis.
Wow,
Venti,
so
yeah.
you're already all over
Because
the place.
it's not in English. Just especially in the morning. Don't ask me to speak different languages specifically before I have a coffee. Just do small, medium, large like everybody else. But yeah, so I used to do like the really big ones, and then I just cut out coffee because I was going a little bit crazy. And I've been doing the little ones.
Wow.
It's not strong enough anymore though.
So the
Correct.
the
I'm
time
like
off, yeah.
correct, yes. That'll solve it.
And we've got you here behind the camera. And speaking of Super Bowl 50, interesting question to pose and break down, maybe debate. I don't know where you guys are going to fall on this. Should the Broncos re-sign or have interest in re-signing Von Miller if the Bills decide to release him? But before we get into the Broncos part, the question is like, well, why would the Bills release him? Because doesn't he have a very big contract that they've have quite a lean on? But Henry, you have reasoning why they would release him?
Yes. I believe. So yeah, it costs like another couple $1 million this year, but then they don't have
release
to
him.
pay him at all next year. And really, the way it works is they probably like split it up over 2 years, unless they have somebody else that they're using that like post June 1 designation on. So while it would cost them more initially, I think over the next 2 years it would save them $6 million, which seems like it might be worth it. Because so it goes up $9 million this year, but then you
release
save
him.
$15 million, which would be a savings of $6 million.
Gotcha. So this year it hurts some more, but over the next 2 years they save
Yeah.
$6 million by moving on from him. And it's crazy that they're in this position right now.
Yep.
And because when they signed Von, he was supposed to be kind of the piece that took him over the hump or down the
Roller coaster.
down the roller coaster into glory. And Von had the opportunity to become, I believe, the first player to ever win a Super Bowl with 3 different teams.
Yeah.
And when they signed him, it kind of came out of the blue. It caught everyone off guard because it was like maybe he's going to go back to the Rams, maybe he's going to join another team. And then it came out of the blue that he was going there. And to me, it made a lot of sense for them to get Von. That could be the piece to take him over the edge. And unfortunately, an injury totally derailed that. Von, at the beginning of 2 seasons ago, his first year with the Bills, I think had like 8 sacks in the first 10 games or something. He was looking like, oh gosh, he is going to be that piece. He is going to get to the playoffs and break the all-time sack record for sacks in the playoffs. He might be another Super Bowl MVP. He's going to win that third and become the first player to ever do that. And then he tore his ACL. His ACL.
Yeah.
Was out for all the playoffs last year. And then this year when he came back, I think he came back 5 weeks into the season, 6 weeks into the season or something. And he finished the season with 0 sacks.
Yeah.
And just did not look like himself.
Yeah, it was a tough year. I think ACLs are always tough to come back from. Think about Javonte, came back, definitely wasn't himself. I think Von has, 1 or 2 more years left in him. Good years. It just is a matter of how he bounces back this next year. This next year is huge for not his legacy, but just his ability to play longer in the NFL.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Big time.
I think he fits well with the Broncos in particular because the outside linebackers weren't great last year. Like there were definitely things that you really like. Like they all made some big plays, and you could I think only 12 teams had two players have at least 8 sacks. It's like the Broncos were one of those, so that's nice. Also, like the most any Bronco had was 8.5, which isn't great. At the same time, you had like Randy and Frank stealing snaps early, so that hurts. Overall, like it was not a great season, but they don't have any free agents there, so everybody's still under contract for next year. You could easily make a case that they need to go find like a real pass rusher, but when you have all those guys under contract, it's kind of tough to justify. Like if you go sign like Danielle Hunter or Josh Allen or one of those big guys out there, you probably trade one of the guys you already have. It's just kind of like a mess, but kind of like a fun mess because they're all so young. And if you just add Von Miller to that group, he could kind of be the DeMarcus Ware
Exactly.
from when Todd was on the team, when he's out there like giving tips and coaching guys up. And at this point, that could be what those guys really need. Because I would imagine still, I know last time I heard from them, they were all like in almost constant contact with Frank Clark and Randy Gregory, because they were saying like, yeah, they've taught me so many things, and I can go into any game and they'll give me tips. And even when they were off the team, that kept going. So to bring in Vaughn to hold that kind of role, I think could make a lot of sense, especially because he'd signed for the vet minimum because of the offset language in the contract. And then if he turns out to be like a decent option as a pass rusher, like there you go. That's just kind of the bonus.
So you're bringing him in as a mentor above anything else.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't think anybody's bringing him in to be their like ace pass rusher.
Huh. I like that. I like that angle there, because I'm going to take a different angle after I tell you about our friends over at Game Time. If you're going to be in Vegas and you're scouting the market for a Super Bowl ticket, Game Time's going to give you $100 off by using the code VEGAS100, all put together, VEGAS, and then the numbers 100 to get $100 off the big game. What type of parlay would you have to put together with that savings of $100 to pay for your ticket? Because aren't they like $9,000 right now? So you'd have to put what is that, 900 to 1 parlay together. You put those $100 down that you're going to save, pays for your ticket. I mean, that's the ultimate Vegas experience right there. Then getting to see the Chiefs take on the 49ers in the big game. Or if you're not going to be in Vegas and you don't want to drop that much money on a ticket, you can still get $20 off by using the code DNVR over at Game Time for concerts, for Nuggets games, Avs games, Rockies games coming up soon. Well, of course, in this fall, Broncos games. And it doesn't just have to be in Colorado. It can be anywhere across the country where Game Time is. Use that code DNVR over at Game Time or Vegas100 if you want to go to the big game. Terms apply. Just download the app and use either that code Vegas100 or DNVR to get that off your first purchase.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to get all that money, but if you really want to try to make it happen, go over to our friends at DraftKings and almost.
You're the perfect person at putting together crazy parlays, though, Henry.
They're not crazy. They're just good. They're smart.
Okay, well, put us together a 900 to 1 parlay.
So let's see.
Or no, it would be 90 to 1, actually, if you're willing to put $100 down. So 90 to 1, that's a lot more reasonable.
Well, what I came up with is there's 4 NBA games today. Need the Lakers to upset the Celtics on the road. Seems like kind of a crazy thing to happen at the same time. Like,
so you're pulling for the Lakers,
LeBron.
Huh?
I mean, if I pull the trigger. The Cavs playing at Memphis. Memphis is terrible. That's an easy win. Knicks play the Pacers. Knicks, Nuggets fans know, pretty good basketball team. Also,
That's
Jazz are hosting the 76ers. Always bet against Embiid. And then this is the tough one. So right now, IUPUI is playing at Green Bay. They're down 14 points, but you can get 14 to 1 odds. This is like the kicker. From there, you need
a live bet.
Yes. So get it in now. Binghamton to beat NJIT, Elon to beat Campbell, Purdue Fort Wayne to beat Milwaukee. Oh no, sorry, Milwaukee to beat Purdue Fort Wayne.
Sounds like a nightmare.
And Fairleigh Dickinson to beat LIU, and then Sacred Heart beats Stony Hill. You put $10 on that. You make $22,000, which is perfect because you'll have to pay some taxes, leave you with enough for 2 tickets to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Yep. Oh, Hopefully you guys got in because IUPUI just scored, so now it only gets you 17 grand.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dang, that was a big drop.
Yeah, Melissa scored a couple times.
With taxes, though, that'll get you one ticket.
They'll get you one ticket, yes. And if you guys have not gotten to DraftKings yet, you're screwing up. That's where I have a job, but I make the real money over at DraftKings. It's not funny, it's real. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code DNVR. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code DNVR. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
You nailed it.
I know.
And Henry, you made the case on why mentorship role. Here's why. Here's the case I would make for bringing Von back.
But one thing that would never change is my love for Broncos Country. They were with me through everything. Coming in as a rookie, getting injured twice. And of course, both Super Bowl 50 MVP. The fans there, I'll be on Twitch now and I still get like random messages from the fans. For me, it was like I didn't want to leave. I cried real tears when I left. So to see that organization winning and starting to do better is a treat for me. I've had so many different players come through there that I built special relationships with. Peyton Manning, Champ Bailey, DeMarcus Ware, Tim Tebow. To like the young leaders there now, like Justin Simmons, Patrick Surtain, and Garrett Bowles. I remember when these guys got drafted. I feel like I played for Sean Payton before, as much as I've heard from the other players. I went to Cortland Sutton's wedding this offseason, and Russ was there, and KJ, of course, Cortland and Jerry Jeudy, and I'm still keeping in touch with Tim Patrick and, all the guys. So I didn't get to play for the owner that's there now and the head coach that's there now. So I had a great relationship with everybody in that facility. That'll always be love 100%. And
Okay, now that everyone's wiping their tears away and getting all emotional over here, that's why you'd bring Von back, is for the storyline, in my opinion. That's the only reason that you would bring Von back is for the storyline. To me, from a football perspective, it doesn't make sense. What I think when you bring Von back is to sign that one-day contract when he retires, so he can officially retire as a Bronco, which Von clearly wants. The Broncos clearly want, the organization wants, fans want, media wants, everyone wants that. But right now, I don't see why it would make sense from Von's perspective. Doesn't Von want to chase another Super Bowl? Doesn't he want the playoff sacks record, which he's so close to? Doesn't he want to become the first player to ever win a Super Bowl with 3 different teams, like I talked about earlier? And then from a Broncos perspective, the Broncos aren't in that position to offer Von any of those things, if we're being realistic with where the Broncos are right now. But then also, they didn't have Von Miller, but the Broncos went this route of like veteran pass rushers last year to try to mold these younger guys or to try to lead them as a starter with these younger guys kind of in the background. And it couldn't have failed more miserably. How often do we see what happened last year where you have 2 highly paid guys in Frank Clark and Randy Gregory on your team? They're supposed to be the starters going into the season, and they're both either cut or essentially cut, traded for a 7th-round pick by before the middle of the season. Like, what a massive failure there. Yeah. Those were the guys that held this outside linebacker group back when the other guys got opportunities, kind of like you said, Henry. They did well. So, to me, it doesn't make sense.
I agree with Hank as far as like the mentor aspect that Von brings to the game. He was a mentor while I was here. And those 2 guys last year, no knock on them or disrespect, but they're just not the same caliber of players and teachers as Von and DeMarcus. And I think Von learned a lot from DeMarcus, and he would bring a different kind of energy. And plus, he would be cheap. He would have to want to come here, but he would play for minimum. And then also, he's not a first or second down guy. Like, he's primarily the third down rushing outside linebacker. So he would have a limited role, but I think one that would fit with his rehab and then his abilities now, having a longer career in the league, I think it'll work for him. I think he's always talked about at some point you turn into that third down guy as your career gets longer. It just happens. And why not as a Bronco? I think it will work well, and it's not going to be a good hit to the salary cap because we're broke anyway. So.
Exactly. And that's what makes it a perfect fit is, like, the other option is to keep Ronnie Perkins on the roster, which, no offense to Ronnie, like, cool guy. I really like him. He's not going to be the difference between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. You could say, like, yeah, they could go get somebody. It's like, well, anybody you go get is more expensive than Von Miller. So there's step one. You could draft somebody. Do you need another young guy? Like, you don't need another one of those, like, gamble, like, see what he can do. Like, that guy's just stealing reps from Nik Bonitto or Jonathan Cooper or Baron Browning. Like, to me, I think, like, it's kind of a perfect fit. And then you throw in the fact that he's a Bronco, so why not?
So you're saying perfect fit. For something to be a perfect fit, it's got to be perfect for both sides. And I would have no issue with the Broncos bringing him back for the vet minimum, understanding that he's a third down guy at best. Like, if he gets healthy and looks like he did before he got injured, of course he's going to be every single third down, obvious pass rush situation type of guy, because then he'd be back. But the perfect fit also means that Von would want to come back. I don't see it from that side of kind of what I laid out of what the Broncos are looking at and what a 35-year-old Von would be looking at.
But I think it's a perfect fit for him too, because I don't think, the Chiefs aren't coming and banging down his door saying, "Hey, Von Miller, we saw what you did this year. You're what we need." He's coming off a bad year. Like, the best teams in the NFL either have edge rushers or won't necessarily be wanting a guy who didn't get a sack this season. Like, I don't think that Von's stock is so high that there's going to be a whole bunch of teams after him. I only think there's going to be a couple teams that are interested.
So if Super Bowl contending teams don't want Von, then why would another team want him?
The Broncos? Because they have 3 young pass rushers for him to mentor, and then it gives you kind of a backup plan in case you need him. That's why I think it's a perfect fit.
Interesting. Do you think Von would want to come back? Because we know, and we saw it there, and we heard him after he was traded and when he was here this whole time, and you know probably better than anyone just how much he loves being a Bronco and how much this means to him. And so I could see it there. But Todd, there also is the competing interest of wanting to chase the playoff record, wanting to make the playoffs, potentially have a chance to win a Super Bowl. How do you think that would balance?
I think the ability to potentially bring the Broncos from where they were back to the glory days would be intriguing to him. I know that he feels like they're building something. Even him talking about, like, the success that we found, it was very limited, but he sees it. And so I think he sees potential to kind of come on and be one more piece to the puzzle of them being great again. I think that will only make Von an even bigger name in Denver. I think at that point, if he was able to get them back to playoff contention, whether he played for 1 or 2 more years and put together something relatively good, I think he'd be untouchable. He's already pretty much untouchable, but that would just make him, the GOAT. And
it'd just be great to have some, like, there are no ties left to that Super Bowl team. Like, everybody's gone now. And to have somebody who's been a part of that in that room would be huge. And honestly, as anybody with any real playoff experience would be great. Mike McGlinchey with the 49ers had some success. Ben Powers, Ravens never did much. No tight ends. Troutman with the Saints probably made the playoffs at some point, but not didn't have the type of experience that Von had, winning a Super Bowl and winning multiple Super Bowls.
Actually, I don't think Troutman ever made the playoffs.
Did he not? Did they not the last few years?
I don't think so. Because this was his 4th year in the league.
Yeah.
So it would have been the first 3 years.
I don't know if they did. They were always one of those teams that were, like, right there. But yeah, so especially if Russ is gone, you don't have guys who have played in those big games at this point. Von not only has played in those games as a Super Bowl MVP, like, just having that experience, especially in that room, I think would be ideal.
Man, at some point we got to let go of Super Bowl 50 though. Like, in
Why?
terms of in terms of trying to hold on to that and hold on to connections there.
Why?
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because next year is the 10-year anniversary of that team. Like, we're so far away from it. I don't think trying to recapture... I mean, you're not going to be able to recapture it.
No, I don't think you're recapturing it, but I think you can still... If the knowledge is still there for what it takes to get to the Super Bowl, I think it's still applicable even 10 years later.
Yep.
I don't think the knowledge of how to make a deep run into the playoffs has changed that much from when we won the Super Bowl 50 to now. So if we can gain some of that knowledge by bringing one player on this team, and he can help the team understand what it means to be successful in the playoffs and what it means to ramp up in October and November, I think the knowledge is still useful. And I think that's why you want Payton to be an owner, or why the fans loved it. That's why you want John Elway as your GM. I think even though they won Super Bowls in the past, the knowledge they have of what it takes to build a team, be successful in the playoff, is applicable no matter how far away you get from a Super Bowl win.
Yep.
And you think that third down pass rusher would like take them? I'm truly asking, like, would have that big of an impact in a locker room?
I think it would have a big impact because nobody else has been to the mountaintop. Nobody else can speak to what it really means to get there. Nobody else can mentor young guys, outside linebackers and tackles. He can talk to McGlinchey. He can talk to Garrett Bowles if he's here next year. He can still mentor players on the offense and the defense and help them to be better and kind of get their mind shaped for what it means to be a playoff team, because literally nobody in the locker room really knows what it means to be even a playoff team, let alone a Super Bowl contender. Like, there's a lot of learning that has to go into this locker room. And I think that if you look at any Super Bowl team, you have a great mix of veteran players and veteran leadership and young guys that are hungry. We primarily just have young guys that are hungry. I wouldn't say that we have like a huge presence of veteran leadership. I think Justin's a great leader on defense.
He's also never played in a playoff game.
Yeah, he's never been to a playoff game, and I wouldn't say he's a super veteran either. And then on offense, Russ isn't going to be here. Cortland's a great leader, but he's not a veteran to that extent, and he hasn't been to the playoffs. McGlinchey, I don't know if he's been here long enough to really have say-so in the locker room where guys truly follow his lead. I think leadership is needed if we really want to take the next step.
And Vaughn would just be so good. Like, just because you don't need him every day saying, like, here's, like, let me get up on the whiteboard and say, like, here's what we do today to go win a Super Bowl. But the few times during a season when you need him to say, like, hey, this is where you kick it into gear, like, that is somebody who would get more respect in that locker room than anybody else. By far.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know who else could compete with that. And to have that voice, like, you don't need it a lot, but you need it at certain times. And then just the lead by example, you know, what do you do after a loss? Because I think that could be tricky. Like, how does, like, a great champion handle a defeat? Is it you move on quickly? Do you sit in it for a couple days and then kind of like there's just so many of those things that this team hasn't learned because they've never been to the playoffs and they haven't been around a lot of people who've played in those big games. Like, I think leadership is incredibly important, and I think that realistically, he might be the only real big leader that you could bring in this year, given just where this team is sitting.
And I think it's – go ahead.
I was just going to say, does it change your approach to this and bringing him back and everything you guys are saying about the leadership, depending on which route the Broncos go? Like, if they bring Russ back, that would maybe be an indication, like, okay, we're really going to try to make that push and get to the playoffs this year. Then, like, in my opinion, load up, get Vaughn on that cheap. It makes so much sense. They move on from Russ and they move on from other players because of Russ's dead cap. They move on from Courtland. They move on from Justin. And it's clear that they're tearing it down. Would you still make the case to bring him back?
That might be when you need it even more. Like, if you really don't have any veterans, like,
wouldn't that be when Vaughn, like,
he might not be interested.
Wouldn't want to come back?
He might not be interested, but that's his side. Like, if you're the Broncos, you'd still love just to have a real veteran voice in there, I'd imagine.
Yeah. And you know, if they're being honest in their view of how they see this team, I don't know if they're completely tearing it down even if they let go of pieces. They may have to let go of some pieces to get a good quarterback, but I don't feel like they're trying to rebuild from what we've heard from the organization. And I just think he's a good mentor. And I think it's all the stuff like football, but then also off the field.
Yep.
Like, I think the guys started going out to dinner kind of midway through the year, and you saw how it changed the dynamic of, like, how they played. Like, we were doing that for 2 years straight before we won the Super Bowl. Like, that was every Thursday night, guys were together hanging out. Like, that was a staple, and that's something that if you're a part of that team, you understood. But all these guys are kind of learning, like, that's what it takes to be successful. And it's also, like, him walking in with his food every morning, and he's drinking a green drink and, like, fruit, and everybody else like, why are you eating this. And then so everybody starts eating, fruit and green drinks. And he's walking up to guys like, what are you eating? And it's like some pork and some carbs. He's like, this is not good enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all those little things and little nuggets that he gives throughout each day that I feel like will help the team be more successful too.
So then, if this is the case, and hearing what you guys are saying about the mentorship, the leadership, why not just bring him back in the DeMarcus Ware role the second time DeMarcus Ware was brought back as like a coach? I mean, DeMarcus, right after he retired with the Broncos, he came back as, was it a pass? Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
And it wasn't as much of a grind for him, but like, is that even more ideal? Because then he's not taking up a roster spot.
We saw D Ware like 3 times.
Exactly. Like, you want Vaughn in the locker room. Like, the coach can't go to team dinners. Like, that's just strange. You know, you need him to be a football player who shows them how to be football players.
To the team dinners.
Did he?
I bet he wouldn't. Like, again, he
not
wasn't
when
there
he was
that much.
No,
you can't do it as a coach.
I literally saw D Ware like 3 times.
You can't do it as a coach. Like, a coach and play. Like, you don't need him. Like, the technical advice is good, and it'd be nice to get some of that, but a whole bunch more of it's just the leadership. And you're not, I don't know, your pass rush specialist is not in the locker room giving, like, big, rah-rah speeches. Like, that's just not, it doesn't align. You know, you need him in the locker room, like you said, like, how do you treat your body?
Yep.
Like, having those conversations, setting up dinners. Like, you need him as a player, like, you know, even if it's like as Udonis Haslam or whatever with the Heat, just literally to be there to control like the culture and do that sort of stuff. Yeah. I mean, not that I'd say no to him as a coach, but that you would definitely lose, I think, at least half the benefit.
So if Vaughn did what he did last year on the field, would you still want that? 12 games, 0 starts, 0 sacks, 0 tackles for a loss, 3 total tackles, 3 quarterback hits.
Of course he's going to have to improve from that. I don't think he was happy with that.
Okay.
Those numbers or the output, like, that's not who he is as a person. And hopefully if he's just playing third downs, he should definitely have a lot more sacks than that. So I think we would need more from him for sure.
Also, if he didn't provide more, the whole 0 starts means you might be getting some good stuff from Nik Bonitto and Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper. Like, that's the nice part, is that Vaughn is almost like a third down insurance policy. If a lot of things need to happen for this to make sense. Like, first of all, the Bills need to actually cut him, and then he needs to still want to keep playing, and then the Broncos need to be like the best. But if everything were to come together and somehow work out, yeah, I mean, anything he gets as a player, I think, is kind of gravy, because you're still looking at this saying, we've got 3 young outside linebackers we really like, and we want to give them as many snaps as we can. And that's why you don't want to go get a free agent who wants to come and play a whole bunch. That's why you don't draft a guy who you need to also develop. What you need is another guy on the roster. And if you want, it could be like a Ronnie Perkins, Thomas Incoom, who could provide more on special teams. Or you just say, Vaughn, come help these guys be their best. And if you wind up in a pinch and need him to play a bunch, there you go. Or if he shows up to camp and he's tearing people apart, then yeah, like, throw him out there because he's your best option.
And I think these guys are truly outside linebackers. Like, there's no pass rush specialists among the group right now.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are outside linebackers. They play hard in the run game. They stuff everything back, and sometimes they can get after the quarterback. They need a pass rush specialist, or at least somebody that can teach them how to pass rush, so they can pass rush at an elite level as well as play the run well.
Sounds like a coach.
Well, yeah.
Henry, you keep leaving one guy out of this outside linebacker room, and I want to break down the outside linebacker room after I tell you about Breckenridge Brewery. If Vaughn comes back, maybe we'll share some Breck beers with him. We'll be putting back some Breck beers next week in Las Vegas, and you can get Breck beer all across the country. So check out our friends over at breckbrew.com to find the beer locator where you can get all sorts of Breckenridge beer. Broncos Country Pale Ale is out. It's getting chilly this weekend. Maybe some vanilla porter season, and you can get it all over at breckbrew.com, the official beer of DNVR.
And shout out to our friends over at Empire Today. With Empire Today,
No jingle?
I did it. It wasn't as jingly.
He didn't jingle like Zach jingles.
There you go.
Today, yes. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee, so you don't have to worry about finding a lower price somewhere else and getting worse service because of that price, you can make sure that you get the best price and the best service with their price match guarantee. You can schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off when they use the promo code DNVR. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DNVR for details.
All right. So let's look back at this outside linebacker crew from last year. Obviously, it seems like decades ago that it was Randy Gregory and Frank Clark supposed to be the starters going into camp. That's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then you had Nik Bonitto, Baron Browning, Jonathon Cooper, and one guy who is he an outside linebacker? Drew Sanders.
Yep.
Yeah, he's.
Would you? Well, Henry hasn't been considering him an outside linebacker in this conversation.
To me, he kind of counts as both. Like, you just fit him in, like, numbers wise. You know, if you wind up in a situation where you say, like, bring Josie back, obviously Alex is still around. Jonas Griffith, I believe, is still under contract. Now he's a restricted free agent. You decide to bring Justin Sternad back for special teams. Then you've got 4. Then you're like, yeah, I mean, you can kind of count Drew as an outside linebacker. So if you wind up not bringing one of those back, then you can kind of count them wherever. I think numbers-wise, you probably wind up with, like, 9 total between the two. And he's just kind of like the swing can fit either one, makes it easier to get to the numbers on either side. In terms of like where he plays best, like last season, he very clearly played better at outside linebacker. He was unplayable on the inside, but that was also the beginning of the season, and maybe he just got better as a football player and didn't necessarily fit better at outside. I think he probably fits better at outside. He's definitely not like a true pass rusher. Like, he doesn't have moves yet. Those could come, but yeah, I mean, the book is definitely not written on him yet.
The team made it very clear after they had him in the building for months what he was. He was an outside linebacker. There was the exchange with the media with Sean where he was asked about being an outside linebacker, and Sean got really upset that media was telling Sean what was happening at practice in terms of him being outside linebacker. At the end of the year, he was exclusively playing outside linebacker. When we had Josie and Alex on the show, they even mentioned, like, yeah, our inside linebacker group before the games, how they were saying they don't really do the music, they kind of hang out with each other. Yeah. They're like, yeah, it's us, it's Justin Sternad, and Drew used to be with us. Now he's with the outside linebackers. Like, he's very much an outside linebacker, and I have to imagine that wasn't just like a numbers thing. That was like, okay, we actually, after having him in the building for a while, we see him as an outside linebacker. So right now, I would imagine that this team is viewing him as an outside linebacker moving forward.
I think so. I think it's similar to like Baron Browning. I think he was supposed to be an inside guy, maybe could do both, and then he just found his way and his comfort level on the outside. I think Drew plays well on the outside too, but I think he's still right now a first and second down outside linebacker. You're not leaving him out there to pass rush. You know, he can do well dropping into coverage because he does have some inside linebacker history, but I don't think he's like the major piece missing in that outside linebacker room puzzle.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yeah.
Is it possible, and you're the perfect person to ask, is it possible for a player to consistently be moving from inside to outside, or at some point do they really have to settle? Or like we see it with Michael Parsons?
Yeah, I was just about to say Michael Parsons does it all the time.
So is there someone, is he like a unicorn in this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, it happens. It's rare. It happens sometimes. I say Hassan Reddick maybe did it a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
There's a few
Patriots
guys, but it's rare.
Seems like the Patriots guys, but that was more of like a scheme thing.
Yeah, Van Noy did it a little bit.
Yeah, Van Noy did it. Dante Hightower maybe.
Oh,
yeah,
he's
a little outside.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on the scheme. So it's not that it's never happened, and it's definitely doable. So yeah.
So you could see that maybe for him?
I could see that. He just has to bring it up to the table when he does go on the outside. Because most of those guys we talk about, they're inside linebackers, but then when they get on the edge, they're pass rushers. They're not just stuffing the run. Like, they're getting after quarterbacks. So he would have to do more damage from the outside to really be able to play both. And I think he needs more time being a great inside linebacker. I wouldn't say that he's ready to be a starting inside linebacker in the league yet.
Right. And that was the big thing this year, was that you have Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton. And those guys are playing so well that he was blocked. So if they wanted to get him on the field, they weren't going to be able to do it at inside linebacker. You know, outside of like they could come up with a couple like third down rush packages. And that's not the only reason I think they moved him, because they had like a 3-man rotation at outside linebacker at that point. I was just pulling up the snaps to make sure, with Cooper and Bonitto and Browning. And so over there, you put him in as your 4th outside linebacker, you can at least get him some snaps. And when you combine the fact that there are snaps available at outside, there are no snaps available at inside, and things haven't gone well from it inside, why wouldn't you just flip him over? And that does probably mean that they will start him at outside next year, but I don't think it's a guarantee. I think it depends on a lot of things. Like, first of all, does Josie come back?
I think that's the biggest key.
That's number one. And obviously what they think of Drew will kind of factor into that as well. But I don't think it's kind of written in stone either way. I think that it would have been nice if they had some clarity, if he would have come out and totally dominated. And I think it was the last game. No, it wasn't the last game. I think it was the Charger game. He made a couple plays from the outside linebacker spot. I think there was like a drive where he had 3 tackles and they punted. But he certainly hasn't done enough to say like, oh, look, we can't take him out of this spot, or we can't take him out of that spot. To me, it just kind of depends on what they see. You'd probably lean outside linebacker, but also it takes more time to develop as an inside linebacker, especially when he hadn't really played that at all coming in. So maybe they think put him in the film room, they can find a way to make it work.
At the same time, we can't dismiss him, though, because he's a third-round pick from last year under Sean Payton. So it's not like he's just half of this regime's guy. No, he's this regime's guy, second pick that they used in their draft. So, like, he is going to have a spot here, and I just don't think we can overlook him.
No, he'll be on the team for sure.
He'll definitely be on the team. And he played inside all training camp and looked fine. It just was more so like in the actual gameplay that he needs to step up. But I think, like you said, it all depends on if Josie comes back or not. I think if they move on from Josie, which they shouldn't, I think he'll end up being the starter, because I don't think we have capital to go out there and get another starting linebacker. Yeah. I think over time he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what grade would we put on this outside linebacker group? Last year, this might be the craziest group. I mean, we used the word roller coaster earlier, talking about Payton's first year. Roller coaster might be the word I'd use to describe this group from last year, too, because you can't get lower than moving on from your 2 supposed starters by midway through the season. And then we saw games. Baron Browning had a 2-game or a game where he had multiple sacks. We saw Nik Bonitto have a multi-game sack. So we saw some of these young guys step up in big ways as well. So we did see like highs of highs as well.
Yeah. I'm going to give this group maybe a B-. I think overall they stepped up when guys left, and I think they played pretty well. But there still was that lack of pressure that we needed at times. And I think sometimes I felt like the coaches were unsure about these guys, because even guys like Nik Bonitto, like, what was he, 3rd in the league in sacks at one point? And all of a sudden he's the backup. Like, I think they saw production, but they ultimately didn't see that all they needed to make him the starter. You would think, being that high up at sacks, you would be the starter now. You got the job. But ultimately, I think, they rotated a lot of guys here, and they weren't sure about the guys overall. And so even with Drew Sanders coming in, I think that leans more on the side of we're still trying to figure out this outside linebacker room more than we got it. And, Drew can just sit back and learn. So I say a B- overall.
Really quick on Nik, to your point. He played in 15 games, had 8 sacks. Like you said, he was like exploded off the gates and was top 5 in sacks. 8 sacks, all 8 of his sacks came in 5 games. Yeah. So to your point about like, man, he was there at times, he wasn't. Coaches didn't maybe fully trust him. The inconsistency was crazy with him, which isn't crazy for a young, talented guy. Yeah. Like that's what you want to see from talented guys, is them to explode and then get more consistent as time goes on. But that's exactly what he was. To have all of his sacks in 5 games is wild.
That is wild.
And also, it's 5.5 of them in the first 5 games, then 2.5 the rest of the way. And I think a lot of that is that teams kind of figured out what to do with him. I know early on, it was like week after week after week. The Bears, I think did it twice where they just
weren't
like
blocking them.
No, they would just try to like pull a defender, like it'd be like a fake power play action or something like that.
Yeah.
And they just like have the guard come across and try to clean him up. He'd just run right by him. And after like the third time it happened, I asked him about it. I was like, it's kind of crazy they keep doing this, right? And he was like, yeah, I was just talking to my coach about it. And he was like, enjoy it because teams are going to stop trying to block you that way because it just doesn't work. Like he's too fast. And then as soon as they started like getting away from that, he had a couple really nice moves and those got him the last sacks. I can't remember with that last one. Was it the Browns game maybe? There was one that was just beautiful. And yeah, it was the Browns game where he just like cooks a guy and goes and gets a sack and you're like, oh. And that's what you wanted from him when you drafted him is like the speed rush and the dip and all that sort of stuff. And the moves haven't quite come together. Again, like bringing Vaughn, those moves will come together. But I do think that the big part of it was teams just realized like if you just like get up on him, get your hands on him, it's going to probably work out okay. Yeah. But at least you know what they're going to do. Like you took away one of the things, now you find the counter to it, Yeah.
So what do you think overall for this group?
I went with a D+. I think you look at, first of all, the total sack production, you're like 21st in the NFL. It was also the most sacks they've had since I think 2020, which is combine those two things, it's a little bit sad.
That's wild.
The big thing to me was just that beginning of the season, and like you don't really get much pass rush production from Frank and Randy, and
we got to exclude them from this group.
But they were part of it.
They're part of it.
No,
They're part of it.
But they were the worst part of it.
They were,
Right,
they
so
were,
it brings them
down.
So I would say, oh dang, I was giving them a grade. I was grading the guys minus them.
Yeah,
because
I'm with Todd because it's like you need to like play a certain amount of games for you to be eligible for all these awards and everything.
I think
you're getting paid.
2023 Denver Broncos outside linebackers. What happened?
You start from week 1 to week 18, in my opinion.
D+. And I do agree. Like by the end of the year, they were piecing everything. Like Jonathon Cooper was doing all sorts of stuff. Like Baron Browning, Nik Bonitto, one of them was gonna like win their matchup and get some good rushes. And at that point, they were also setting the edge. That first half of the season, they could not set the edge.
No, Randy Gregory
could
not set the edge. There was literally at least 21 points in that Miami game attributed to Randy Gregory. Like, I can't put that on the outside linebackers. Like, I know exactly who that was.
And he might win a Super Bowl in 10 days.
That's true. That is pretty crazy.
Who won there? He got his money and now he's on a Super Bowl team.
He won.
I mean, if you just call this like the post Randy and Frank outside linebacker era, sure, like give him a B. Why not? Like they were. Jonathon Cooper was consistent. Everybody else like kind of flashed enough that you're like, yeah, you kind of got what you needed there. Didn't like exceed expectations by a ridiculous amount, but like got done. When I look week 1 to week 17, D+. It just did not go great.
And I'm there too. I'm exactly at a D+ as well because of Randy and Frank. And then you got okay from the other guys. The most consistent guy, you mentioned it, Jonathon Cooper. The opposite of Nik Bonitto, he had 4 sacks in the first 8 games of the season and 4.5 sacks in the second in the second half of the season as well. So he was as consistent as you can be. Overall, he finished as the best guy on your team in quarterback hurries, knockdowns, sacks, pressures. He was absolutely your most consistent one. And then you did see flashes from the others. So I think the way this would grade out and what we've broken down is grading, projecting, like what we expect this group to be, probably a lot better than the grade we gave them last year. And a big reason for that is 2 guys that you paid a lot and that are no longer on your team.
Yeah.
You want to change or you want to keep it B-?
No, I'm going to keep it a B-
I like
because
you have your,
I think I have my reasons. And if we're talking about the outside linebackers that are on paper right now for the Denver Broncos, I say B-.
Plus,
you guys are living in the past. I thought you didn't want to bring up. We can't bring up Super Bowl 50. We can't live in the past.
That was him.
I stand by that. I stand. I mean, at some point, like your loving memories, you got to keep them as memories and not try to keep them part of the present anymore. But when we talked about this, Todd, someone in the comment section had a great thing. They said, man, Todd's convincing me that he's making a case for himself to be on the Broncos this year.
Yeah. It is.
I'll do that mentor.
Yeah.
I'm only playing first down. First down and I'm out.
And see, you're smart.
First down linebacker.
You're smart to not be a coach because coach, you get paid a lot less. You work way more hours.
work a
Be
lot
a
of hours.
player,
Yeah.
especially as the mentor guy. Oh man, that's the best role to
I'm
have.
just talking.
Yeah. You do have to like keep yourself in shape though. Like
I mean,
coaches work.
do you
to,
see Todd
Not
having
that-
a
no,
rough
you do a
right
great
now?
job. You do a
Like,
great
he's
job.
already doing it.
You do already do it. But like, the coaches work a lot of hours. Players need to be like always like you can't fuck that up, right? Like,
What you mean?
So disagree.
like how many cheat meals do you get?
Oh yeah, not that many. Especially as a linebacker, not that many. Oh, lineman, I'm sure Quinn is
Yeah.
eating
Yes,
very
that is
well.
true.
But no, you have to be on point.
It's like Andy Reid. Like, yes, it's long
That's-
hours,
yeah.
but you get like I'll sit up there, drink a beer, and eat some cheeseburgers
But
while I
who
watch
wants to
football
look
all
like
day.
that? Nobody wants to look like that.
That's true.
Nobody
I mean,
wants to come home to your wife. You think
Totally.
she thinks you're sexy
Totally.
walking in like that?
Totally, I totally agree.
Breathing
but also,
heavy up the
if
stairs.
you're, he's like what 68. I do think there's like a line where you just say like,
No,
you know,
there's
I'm not,
no line.
I'm not,
No,
I'm
no,
not,
no.
I'm
It's
just not that
forever.
guy anymore.
No,
Forever.
no,
How many
you-
68-year-old men do you think get to like walk home and the wife is just like, oh wow,
But
Well, I'm so
the
lucky
ones,
you look
the
like
ones
that.
that do, think about how happy their wife is every time
yeah.
they come home.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's a-
And think about your wife. You think your wife
Yeah.
you think she gets to forget the 50 and then balloon and she like, oh,
She wouldn't
that
lo-
was her age.
The thing is, like you're like a
preparing her
great
for it
starting
already.
position. Like when you look like that at 31,
32 now. yeah.
32, at 32, like that you're in
Turning
position to
32.
be like the 2% there. Like you're in great position to be like the 2% who at like 68 is like, wow, that guy looks great. He looks like he can still play. Nobody at any point in my life is ever gonna say like you look like you could still play because like I
No,
didn't.
but it's-
I never played.
You don't have to get like in great shape, but at least you got to like stay consistent.
Okay.
I think nobody wants their mate to just get terrible, like, and then all of a sudden you guys break up and now you back in great shape. Like,
Yeah,
do that
That is
before.
ter- yeah,
do that before. Like, you gotta keep trying. If you're out there and you got a significant other, don't you know what I'm saying? Stay in shape, man.
Stay in shape.
Life advice
Don't
from
be
Todd.
Andy Reid.
I love it. I love it.
Horse dress.
I'm feeling bad shape.
Oh, dang.
He doesn't even know what you look like.
Yeah, I don't know. You could be in great shape.
But no, Henry, I totally disagree with you that like about the coaches to player lifestyle. Like Todd said, players would like take time off until the Super Bowl, until after the Super Bowl, and then they get a little bit time off where you're probably staying in more shape in the summertime.
Yeah.
But like you're literally not allowed in the facility. Where I think coaches take like maybe a week or two off at that point, compared to 6 weeks off. Totally different lifestyle.
Also,
Very
like
different.
I think I mentioned this to Todd, but I was listening to the Curious Mike podcast, kind of a fun podcast. Aaron Gordon was on there, and they were just talking, and Aaron was just like, "Yeah, you know, it was time to get like really back in shape for the season, get ready, game shape." So I just like rented a place on the coast in Spain for 6 weeks,
Yep.
and just like worked out there for 6 weeks before the season, just like get ready to go. It's like, so while it does like take a lot of effort, if your one job was like,
right.
I have to be in shape, in great shape. There are some really fun ways to do that, like going and living in the coast of Spain. You also need NBA money to do that, but
Yeah, I mean,
have it.
speaking of Vaughn, he would have his what was his trainer's name?
Sir.
Oh man,
Yeah.
who would
I went
just
to like 2 workouts. I said,
That's
this is-
right.
This is enough.
wild
Yeah.
workouts. You did a couple of them.
Yeah. I never went to San Fran.
Yeah.
No? Okay.
There was times that we were out there at the same time. He's like, "Come work out with us." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be there." I'm not doing
I
that.
can't find it, man. Sorry, new city.
Yeah.
yeah,
no.
Baron Browning's working with him now.
Oh, with sir?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's legit. A lot of pull-ups, a lot of push-ups, a lot of
A lot of
mountain,
hills.
mountain
Yeah.
climbing.
Yeah.
Running through the
hills.
sand.
Yeah,
carrying sandbags.
yeah.
Man, I'm happy I'm not doing that right
No,
now.
I go down to my gym. I don't touch like the free weights. I got my machine. Just kind of do some of this stuff, some of that stuff. You know.
I'm a freeway guy.
All right.
No.
We need to clip that and speed it up there for us. You hear?
There's like the core machine where you just like do kind of like
Crunches?
crunches. And there's
Yeah.
like you just put like 50 pounds on there. Just do like 100 of them. Call it like half cardio.
That's great. Just
Is
being
it?
active.
Really?
Just
Yeah.
being active,
Yeah.
man.
Healthy lifestyle.
Okay.
Yeah, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm not telling everybody they gotta have 6-pack ass.
I am
man.
worried about
Some
Vegas.
people getting mad at me, man.
Because
Everybody,
I've
you
done
know
a
what I'm
good
saying?
job going to
Live
the
your
gym
life, just
for
be
like
healthy.
a week now. When we go to Vegas, it could be so easy if there's just like a gym at the hotel. I'm not sure if that's a thing in Vegas.
No, it is.
It is.
Oh,
Oh, thank
for
goodness.
sure.
I'll be at the
Oh,
gym
good.
every morning. You want me to wake you up?
Yeah, we can do the same workout.
All right, let's do it.
Who's leading who on the other? Are you Todd? Are you leading Henry on yours? Or
We can
is
all-
he
we
because
can
with
alternate
that description,
days.
I don't know exactly what he's doing.
So we can alternate days.
So I got you.
We can alternate
He's
days.
like, come to my hotel room. What? No.
no, what the hell's that? Only if you want to play some Xbox.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
That's how you
Okay.
reel him in. I got Xbox at the room.
yeah, this is a thumb day.
Wow. Close the door behind you. Okay, let's jump into the
They do
comments
that.
on the website or on that we've got rolling in from Super Chats. Our guy Cody,
Ooh.
speaking of Vegas native Cody says, "My boys, pumped to see you all 49ers all the way."
Yeah, big Randy Gregory guy. So Wednesday night,
Yep.
big old circa party.
Yep.
DNVR All City circa party.
Yep, I believe from 6 to 8 p.m. If you're going to be in Vegas, make sure to you can DM one of us,
Yes.
or you can DM DNVR_Broncos to get the details. But yeah, I think
Yep.
it's 6 to 8 p.m. Over at Circa on Wednesday. So Cody, got to see you there, and anyone else that's out there.
First 2 drinks free.
Yep, exactly.
Pretty good.
Incentive to
yeah.
maybe people will buy plane
Anybody's
tickets
in
to come
Vegas.
out now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Especially, maybe this week flights are different. Usually you can get to Vegas for like $40 if you're willing to take a terrible airline.
Spirit.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
We might be sponsored by them, Todd. We
Oh,
don't
my
mention it.
But if we're sponsored by like Southwest, for example, we can clip that and say big fans all along.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys see the Saturday Night Live skit with Alaskan Airlines?
Oh, yeah.
It's hilarious, and they finish it by saying like it's all about how bad Alaskan Airlines is, and they finish it by saying Alaskan Airlines, we're still better than Spirit.
That's true.
I've never actually flown Spirit. I just get the jokes.
You never flown Spirit?
Not once.
It's an
He-
experience.
He
I'm
got
big
it
time.
like that, man.
Wait,
He-
you fly Spirit?
Huh?
Have you flown Spirit?
Yeah, I flown Spirit.
Really?
Probably not in a while, right?
It depends. It depends. But,
Interesting.
like, it has to be like, because I have a family of 5.
True. Oh, okay.
It has to be like $1,500 a ticket for me to be like, all right, we're just gonna do Spirit for $299, and we're just
Todd does Spirit, and then he gets a life insurance immediately before buying the
Exactly,
ticket. Like, we're good to
exactly.
go.
We got a comment from our Vada Luke over at thednvr.com. He says, "Hey there, team. Ironically, back a couple of years, I asked if we needed to still draft or develop a quarterback backup plan given previous lessons learned. Unfortunately, I think I was right, and that we should always be looking to get a resource cheap roll of the dice quarterback pretty much every year, regardless of the status of the position. Names like Kirk Cousins, Tom Brady, Trevor Siemian, and Brock Purdy support this. Everyone has their favorite solution to our perennial quarterback problem. Move all the way up if we have to. Get another vet quarterback. But for my money, you should have to have multiple shots every year at the most important position in ports. I'll take Brock Purdy's upside for Chad Kelly risk levels any day of the week. I take Josh Allen's ceiling for Paxton Lynch's floor. No doubt one of those strategies costs less, but the important thing is we got scared of rolling the dice. Thoughts are Vada Luke.
Yeah, I think we did. Maybe got scared. We haven't drafted well in quarterbacks in a little while.
Since Trevor Siemian, 7th rounder.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a
Trev played
starter.
He played pretty well for when he
Exactly.
was drafted, and just overall his time coming in. I think that was a very hard time to try and be a starter of the Denver
Yeah.
Broncos. So I think he played well, but I think we're a little, I guess, gun shy, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, James Palmer yesterday said, what was it? Some teams believe that every year you should draft a cornerback and tackle
Yeah.
every year in the draft. I would throw quarterback in there.
Yeah.
Unless you're probably never really going to have it figured out. Like Patrick Mahomes, who's his backup,
Doesn't matter.
could matter though. Like you might want to. That
don't
guy
know.
might outprice himself or retire. I know that happened a couple of years ago. But yeah, you probably always just want to have your eyes on the quarterback position. Now, obviously, with Mahomes, they're not going to use a first-round pick on
No.
one, but a 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick, and definitely if you're in the situation of the Broncos, who's the Broncos' starting quarterback this year?
Well, Jared Stidham. No.
We don't know. Who's the backup?
We don't
It might
know.
be. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
So for sure, yeah, I do agree with that.
Just
Can you
depends
guys
on if there's a
guess?
guy you like.
Can you guys guess who's the backup to Patrick Mahomes this year?
This is sad.
He's
We
a
should-
well-known name. He's a well-known guy.
It's
he's
not
gonna
Chase
play.
Daniel anymore,
No.
is it?
No, it used to be. Before that, it was Chad Henne.
Yeah.
Now,
Well-known guy. A hint, another hint.
AFC South.
AFC.
Not Gardner Minshew. Texans.
No, like would be previous.
Yeah, any
Yeah.
Texans?
Not
Any
Davis Mills.
Colts? Nope, Davis Mills still down there.
Oh, man.
Not Bortles.
Blaine
That's what I was gonna say.
Gabbert.
Oh, Gabbert's a good guess.
Mr. Rocket.
Bim, bim,
Shout
bim,
out to
bim.
Mr. Rocket in the
Oh,
comment
it's in
section.
the
I
chat.
wasn't meaning
Okay.
to look in there, but was dropped in there. Yeah. They could be looking at a 6th or 7th round pick at quarterback there.
Yeah.
Man, what a show today.
Very
This
good.
is fun. We went all over the place. It was a roller coaster of a show. Thanks so much for tuning in with us. We got one more show tomorrow before we head off to Vegas. We've got a fun conversation. What can the Broncos do to have a turnaround like the Detroit Lions that Sean Payton has pointed to as being the type of turnaround the Broncos could have? Tune in at 11 a.m. We'll be with you. Thanks for tuning in. Have a terrific Thursday.
We all silly like the mayor.